Hi everyone, I am Colonel Sreenivasulu, a veteran of the Indian Army. I am a disciple of my Guruji, His Holiness Swami Sahajananda Tirtha, who has passed away in the year 2022. Today, actually, I wanted to bring out this video, and I have been thinking about it for quite some time. I only hope I will be able to do some justice to it, and in case should any one of you find anything objectionable or find that it is not consistent with the established teachings, kindly excuse me. I am just trying to do whatever little I can to spread the message of my Guruji and the lineage of my Gurus. That is basically the lineage of Shaktipat, the lineage of Shaktipat Gurus. Okay, at the outset, before I proceed any further, let me quote a small story about the famous 11 blind men who were standing around the elephant. Now, each of the blind men is holding one of the part of the elephant in his hands. Someone is holding the trunk, someone is holding one of the leg, someone is holding the tail of the elephant, someone is touching the stomach of the elephant, and everyone is describing the elephant looks like this, and they are very emotional about it. They say that, yeah, I can feel it in my hands. I'm not under any kind of illusion. I'm talking from the practical experience. Now, the point is, no one is saying that they are not telling the truth. Everyone is saying the truth. But then it is not the whole story. You all know that. In their own perception and in their own experience, all of them are telling the truth. Only thing is, it's not the whole story. Now, just imagine a situation. One among these 11 blind men happened to get some divine vision. He is no longer blind. When he sees at the whole picture of the elephant, he will just simply lop it and he will simply vanish. He won't even stay there probably. Otherwise, others may drag him into politics, seeking his support in support of their own perception about the elephant, how an elephant looks like. Same is the situation most often about the spiritualism. You have so many yoga systems, so many tantric systems, so many philosophies, so many doctrines all over the world giving out their own perception about the reality. And everyone is mostly saying the truth. No one is objecting to it. But what is most important is to get a glimpse into the overall picture or the big picture. Unless this big picture arises, or without the lack of the idea of this big picture in the mind, there will be a commotion in understanding about the spiritualism, and simply yoga practitioners will be wasting their time. In a sense, time will pass away very quickly, the debates will go on, and there they are. Yes, one way to eliminate this problem is stop getting into the debates, stop watching all the social media, stop reading too many books, stop reading listening to too many people like me who are again trying to probably, I'm not sure if I'm trying to add on to the confusion more, and focus on the practice, focus on the practical aspects of it. Practice yoga and see for yourself what is that so-called big picture, what everyone has been searching. Mainly the problem with understanding about the spiritualism is the lack of clarity on this big picture. People must have read something somewhere, picked up some information from somewhere. They are not able to mesh it and piece it together and see the big picture of it. And in this process, human emotions are also playing their role. Some are adamantly attached to their culture, religion. So as a result, total, you can say, chaos. And the actual picture is missing. And generally, yoga practitioners are getting drifted away in all the directions. So from this point of view, I just wanted to speak to you through this video. Please understand a few thumb rules, and whatever you may be pursuing path or whichever philosophy you may be adhering to, these basic assumptions are not violated, and they are always to be kept at the back of the mind. And what our philosophy it may be, it has to fit within this parameter. And these three parameters, the divine, the spirit, or the soul, or call it Atma, which is at the core of every human being, has three components: Sat, Chit, Ananda. Truth absolute, consciousness absolute, and bliss absolute. The spirit is eternal. It has no beginning, no end. The spirit is all pervading. It is all powerful. It is all knowing. The only difference between the universal God and the spirit, which is enshrined at the core of every human being, is if God is like a circle with infinite circumference, then that infinite circumference has no center. The center is also infinite. If God is like a circle, the circumference, the outer limits of the circle are infinite. Since the circumference is infinite, the center is also in illusion. There's no center now. But in case of a human being is also akin to the God. The circumference is again infinite, but the center of the circle is located at the core of the human being. That is the only difference. And every human soul or the spirit keeps changing this gross body of flesh and blood regularly at the end of each lifetime, just like we change our clothes at end of a day, or when the clothes are worn out, we throw them and put on new clothes. Same is the case with this body of flesh and blood. There's nothing magic about it. No human being is going anywhere. no human soul or the spirit is going anywhere. The spirit has always been present and it will always be present. It neither had ever the beginning, neither it ever have an end probably. Now here people will drift into different concepts of the so-called dualism, non-dualism, and when they say non-dualism, they say that there is no difference between the God and the individual spirit. So therefore, ultimately the individual soul has to merge with the universal soul. Whereas just now I have said that the individual soul has no beginning and there is not going to be any end anytime soon. Then there is a contradiction here. See, the point you need to understand is the timelines are gigantic. So many billions and billions and billions of years may have to pass. God knows how many billions and billions and billions, and multiply them further by billions of cycles of birth and death we may have to undergo. Who knows? Today the universe, they say that it is some 14.3 billion years old or something. What if it is also, it's like a cyclical in nature? At some stage, let's say the universe, which has originated out of, let's say, Big Bang theory, as per the modern science, it may again collapse back into void and yet to again undergo through another Big Bang sometime in the future. In the meantime, all the spirits, human spirits, they are not going anywhere. Maybe it's possible that they may take birth in some other solar system in the meantime, but the spirit is not going anywhere. The soul is not going anywhere. Let me give you a small hint also here. Just have you ever wondered what was the, let's say, about 200 years back, what was the human population on the planet? Maybe right now it is 8 billion, that is 800 crores. That time maybe, let's say, there are 4 billion, about 400 crores. So about 200 years back, where were these extra 4 billion people, spirits? They were somewhere, let's say in thin air for time being. And over the next 200 years, the human population has increased and they all have taken birth. Okay, this much is perfect. But then there is one condition which I said it cannot be violated. That's why I said in the beginning of the video itself, some conditions cannot be violated. That is, every human birth is preceded by millions and millions and millions of births. That's why we have laid the basic foundation that the soul has no beginning and there is no end. If this law has to be fulfilled and this law cannot be violated, without violating this law, where have these extra 4 billion or the 400 crores of people have come from in the last 200 years? That's my question. They must have been there somewhere 200 years ago. Now, this explains the theory of transmigration. Transmigration of the spirit from across the uh, terrestrial creatures. When I say terrestrial creatures, birds to animals to human beings, and human beings to animals, animals to birds. Yeah, it may happen. Don't be under the impression that once a spirit has started taking birth as a human being, it will now forever continue to be in the human form only. It only means that the spirit has managed to reach a level, a certain level, wherein it will now start taking birth as a human being, but it may temporarily relapse back into the animal kingdom for once or after a few times. it will undergo a few animal lives and then drift back again into the human being. That means if a spirit, after undergoing through millions and millions and call it billions of lifetimes, finally it has started taking birth as a human being, it only means that it has reached that general level. But there's nothing sacrosanct, it is not sacrosanct that it will not go back into the animal kingdom. It may go, but temporarily, only for a few times. So that's it. So this transmigration is taking place among the terrestrial creatures on the earth. Then you have the transmigration of the celestial spheres also. For example, now what happens to the soul after it is, what do you call, after it dies, after it leaves this gross body of flesh and blood, and before it manufactures a new body of flesh and blood, there has to be some kind of a staging area, temporary staging area. Generally, the ancient Sanskrit texts have been referring to as Pitruloka, or a plane of existence of ancestors. After the death, the spirit, the soul is supposed to go up into the celestial spheres, into that plane of existence, hang on for a while, and of course, scriptures go on to suggest a few more theories wherein the soul is subjected to some kind of a judgment, whether it is allowed to go up further into heaven or to be condemned to a hell, or it needs to be retained in that staging area for some time and then shunted back to earth to take birth again as an animal or a human being. So this transmigration of the vertical, or the vertical transmigration. Why do I say vertical transmigration? As per the ancient Sanskrit text, there are 14 planes of existence, with earth being at the center. When I say center, it is seventh from the top. Above earth, there are 6 more planes of existence. Below earth, there are 7 more planes of existence. And when we talk about this vertical transmigration, we are only talking about the immediate 2 or 3, maybe 2 to be precise. That is Pitruloka and then the Svargaloka. Or the Pitruloka is the plane of existence where all ancestors gather soon after the death, and some are given a passage to the Svargaloka or the heaven based on their religious merit they have earned on the earth, and others are held there in the Pitruloka itself, may be subjected to the hell also for a while, which is probably part of the Pitruloka, and thereafter everyone is shunted back onto the earth. But then there is a catch here, you have to understand. It is about the time dilation factor. As the scriptures say, and even the modern science is also admitting about this concept of time dilation. One day in the celestial spheres is equivalent to multiplied by 100x. It is about 100 times on the earth. That is to say, or maybe even 360 times, 365 times probably. That means one day in heaven, if someone is spending one day in heaven, that is almost equivalent to 1 year on earth. That is 360x rather, not even 100x. Just imagine someone has died now. Let's say that he will be taking birth again on the earth, let's say 10 years later, and let's say this 10 years, now he got to stay in the heaven, and what is the actual time he has spent in the heaven? It's only 10 days. The 10 days in the heaven is equivalent to 10 years on the earth. So it is people, for those people who are on the earth, the timelines are gigantic. But the people who have died, for them the time flies away like that. Whether it is hell, whether it is heaven, even if they have to undergo the punishment in hell, that also don't worry. It will be undergoing only for 10 days of the timing of the hell, the plane of existence of the hell. There is a plane of existence known as hell, whose time, when compared to the earthly time, is 1:360. Don't worry that you are going to be condemned for another 10 years in hell. You will be actually spending only 10 days in hell before you are thrown back. Anyway, that is besides the point. So this vertical transmigration is taking place and terrestrial transmigration is taking place, which is giving birth to the rise and fall of human population. And this also explains why certain species also they become extinct. We keep hearing the stories that dinosaurs long lived on the earth and now they are no longer there. Or even in more recent times, we say the population of tigers is decreasing or increasing, like that. So this transmigration of life explains the for the variations in this population density of the species. Even when we say that the human population is also decreasing, you can well imagine they are not going anywhere. And I am not saying that they are all going into animal wombs. Who knows? They may be going to heaven also. So these basic laws always keep at the back of the mind. Spirit is eternal. Spirit has neither beginning, neither end. Theoretically, there may be a beginning, there could be an end when we talk about the universal soul, or when we talk in terms of the philosophy of non-dualism or the Advaita Vedanta. Yes, theoretically it may be possible, but in reality, in physically, it may never happen because the timelines are gigantic. Now, I will not discuss what happens to a yoga practitioner. See, so far we have discussed what happens to the soul after it dies and again before it takes birth. But we have not discussed what happens to a yoga practitioner who managed to eliminate his karma and free himself from the cycle of birth and death. Now, what will happen to him? That I have not discussed. We will keep it for some other video sometime later. But in general, when we say that spirit is eternal, spirit has neither a beginning, neither an end. Spirit constantly keeps changing its body of gross flesh and blood. This is what it means. Today, there may be someone, a yoga practitioner, feeling emotional that he is suffering in his life and he lives in a particular kingdom or country rather. Who knows? In the previous life, he must not have been a native of that land. For example, let's say someone lives in a place like Japan. In the previous birth, he must have been born somewhere in Saudi Arabia, in a different culture. For all you know, he may have been born in, let's say, some other place like India. So there's no point in getting emotional that I'm been born in a particular culture, I've been born in a particular community, and my mind has been conditioned from childhood under a particular culture. Arey Baba, start thinking like an earthling. You are an earthling. You are a fellow citizen on this planet Earth. As far as I am concerned, you are a fellow citizen, or not citizen, So when we say citizen, then the concept of country will come in. Call it, you're an earthling. You belong to planet Earth. And generally we all are aware that in our solar system, at least, even as per the modern science, there is no evidence of any human beings living on any of the other planets. So we can safely, there may be other planes of existence. There may be aliens who are in invisible form. I'm not talking about them. Otherwise, as human beings in flesh and blood, in our solar system, we are alone. So therefore, when we say, when we think about ourselves, probably we should not be even thinking that we belong to planet Earth. I rather say we should be thinking that we belong to the solar system. We belong to our beautiful solar system with the planets all around it, with the sun in the center. We belong to this world system. When I say world system, you must understand, when the earth is rotating around the sun, there is also a moon rotating around the earth, and without moon, survival of life will not be possible on the earth. Similarly, other planetary influences will also be playing their part. Therefore, when we say one world system, we are including the entire solar system. So think like an earthling, not only an earthling, think like a universal being that belongs to the solar system. And if you have to compete, let's compete with someone from other solar systems, if at all there someone lives there. First of all, this is the idea behind it. When you talk about spiritualism, the eternal life of the spirit, the transmigration of the spirit, taking birth and death, undergoing through birth and death again and again. Now, to break from this cycle is what yoga all about. And what is the culprit behind all this? The karma which has been accumulated by the spirit around it. The karma is projecting it to take birth again and again. It is like a, imagine it like a kind of a glue. It is now attached all around to the soul. No escape. The karma is acting as the cause for taking birth, and while undergoing through the experience, the same karma, while undergoing through the experience, when we, the consequences of the karma, the experience itself becomes cause for further future destiny. And the cycle goes on and on and on. Sometimes you are born in Japan, sometimes you are born in Saudi Arabia, sometimes you are born in India, and sometimes you are born as a rich man, sometimes you are born as a poor man, sometimes you are born under a happy ecosystem around you, sometimes you are born with a poor, miserable ecosystem around you, and you keep getting struggling yourself, thinking that no, I am so and so, I am been born in Japan, I am born in Saudi Arabia, or I am born somewhere else, and I have a family. That is all illusion. It's only a temporary thing. Before we know, the time is passing so fast. Just imagine, 1 year on earth is equivalent to 1 year in the celestial spheres. One day. 1 year on earth is equivalent to just one day. So, if people who are in the celestial regions, they must be laughing at, looking at us. What these human beings are unnecessarily getting carried away. After all, our lifetime, what is the prime lifetime? 40, 50 years. By the time you are born and grow up, 20, 25, add another 40, 50 years, then you have become old man. So 50 years is like 50 days for the people who are in the celestial region. Whereas here you are struggling, thinking that you have spent a lifetime, you have become wise. What wise? You only ended up proving that you are a fool. You are not becoming any wiser here by spending your 50 years or 60 years on earth. 60 years on earth is literally like 2 months, like a small vacation in the heaven. So these are the things to be pondered about. If this is the issue, if the karma is the culprit, which is making the soul taking birth again and again and again, the all the aim of all tantric systems, yoga systems, philosophies, doctrines, everything is to eliminate this karma, so that your spirit is free now to do what it wants, whether to take birth or not. Firstly, it can't take birth because there is no that fuel left. Karmic fuel is not there, and what it wants to do with itself, let it decide. Let it decide what the spirit wants to do with itself. But after quitting the cycle of birth and death, and for that the karma has to be neutralized. If the karma has to be neutralized, it is not within the choice. It's a voluntary action of the human being. That's where the requirement of a guru comes in. So this is the point thing to understand. The karma has to start disintegrating itself on its own accord. And that's what a guru is meant for that. It's just as a medium, as an electric operator who presses the button, and then the karma starts disintegrating itself. And that's all spiritualism all about. Keep it simple. Forget about all the great flowery language which you keep hearing. Forget about all the great doctrines, philosophies. With humble respect to everything, I'm not saying anything against any concept or doctrine. It's humility is what I want to submit. Keep the idea of spiritualism very simple. You are the spirit eternal, and there's nothing greater than you anywhere in the cosmos. And manifest that divinity from within you. And this is the message of all yoga systems. And this is the message of the lineage of my gurus, the Shaktipat gurus. And this is the message of my own guru, Swami Sahajananda Tirtha. With humble pranam to my guru, His Holiness, and I wish you all the best. And this is all I wanted to speak to you today. We'll explore these topics in much more depth in the future videos. All the best. Bye.